morning. It's Friday morning. It is pretty early if you're in the Mountain Time Zone or the Pacific Time Zone. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio.
But if you're in the Eastern time zone, you slept in like some people on this. Oh, okay. Oh,
Well,
not mentioning any names. Just leave it the way it is.
if you land on the Eastern Time Zone at midnight and you're still on Mountain Time Zone, it's not really sleeping in, is it?
Well, that's just bad flight planning there. I'm just telling you. You could have got up at 5 in the morning and been there by 2 in the afternoon, but no.
I thought about that. I thought about that. Okay, people don't want to hear about this. I
Well,
want to hear about the farm.
I got to apologize for this hat because it's like 6 sizes too small. So, but since it's the beginning of football season, I thought
Is
I wear a New York Giants hat. So
That's why it's sitting on top of your head like that?
yeah, it's a fit. It's too small. But got to do
Um,
podcast to make things make sense, but not that this
well, I guess we don't need to talk about the hat later. I'm not gonna tell you what cartoon character it reminded me of.
Elmer Fudd. Yeah, I know. I watch Bugs Bunny. All right, go ahead.
Alright. Good morning. Hi from Maryland, we have in the chat. Okay, so wait, really quickly, how's the harvest going? Let's talk about that.
It's going good, except we got some rain yesterday. It's foggy
Yeah.
this morning. This is the 14th of August. It's foggy this morning. I'm working on doing some repairs to the combine so that when it warms up next week, which it's supposed to, we can hit it hard and hopefully wrap up. And
You keep talking for a second because our guest is calling me, so hold on, you keep talking.
well, hopefully we can get after it in the next week and get it done. We're about I don't know, about a third done right now. We've got the peas in, we got the hard red spring wheat done. Now we got hard white left to do, and that's what most of my farmers planted too. And she's sitting there talking. If you can read lips, you know exactly what she's saying. So, at any rate,
Alright, we're back, we're back, we're back. This is what happens when you're live and you don't have when it's just
what
a team of 2, right?
what happened? Did Ansley sleep in or what?
No, he's here. I feel so bad, like, because of this farmer schedule, we're making him get up really early. So let's get through some headlines so we can get to our guest, Jay Inslee, former governor of Washington. Does that sound good?
The best part of the day is in the morning, so it's really we're helping him out with a good living style. But go ahead.
Okay. So this is the story that everybody's talking about right now. We have reports of major problems on the USS Abraham Lincoln. This is a Navy aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea. It's been deployed there since November. The Washington Post cites reports of supply shortages, attempted suicides, and sewage problems on the ship, to name just a few. I've seen contaminated water as well, extremely low morale, mental health issues. It's now a month past when it was supposed to go home. The Military Times reported at least 2 sailors have tried to jump overboard. A new aircraft carrier is reportedly on the way. Of course, the Pentagon downplaying this. What do you think, Senator?
Well, I mean, I think it shows the condition of our military right now. I mean, I think that Republicans have always been known to be strong on military, and they're going to add a bunch of money to the debt to roll up our military budget here probably in the next month or so. But the truth is, you got to do more than that, and living conditions are pretty important. And when you put people out in the middle of the ocean on a boat and or on a ship, and then just say, just stay there, we're not going to let you know what the hell's going on while you have a war of choice going on in Iran. You can see why they had to raise the age limits for enlistments because, quite frankly, you've got an idiot at the head of the secretary as the Secretary of Defense that doesn't know defense issues. You got a guy in the presidency who avoided the war in Vietnam because he doesn't like to want to serve in the service, and you expect to have any sort of idea on what our military people are going through and how they need to get away from it for a while. Um, no, I mean it's not. This makes perfect sense. It is not out of the ordinary when you put people in a position where they don't know what's expected of them going forward. I mean, it's
Yeah.
It's pretty sad because the truth of the matter is that Congress is looking for answers. Are you kidding me? Congress ought to have the answers because the administration ought to be forthright and transparent. Something they claim they are, but they absolutely are not on all this stuff that's going on with the people who serve this country, which Republicans say is very important to them, but their actions don't show it.
Well, let me also just mention here that we've heard how many times that this war is just a few days away from ending. We have a deal, we have a concept of a deal, we have a concept of a plan, and we've heard the president say he solved this and resolved this. I mean, dozens of times now. And so there's not much confidence that this is in fact coming to an end. There's really no end in sight. So yeah, we're
You're not in the military. Do you have any confidence it's coming to an end?
that's what I'm
No,
saying.
I have zero. I mean, he got into this quagmire and was bragging his butt off about how he's the first person in 47, first president in 47 years that did this. Now he knows why the other presidents didn't do this because he's made Iran into a world power with his stupid damn actions. And Iran is going to get a deal a hell of a lot better than the JCPOA that Obama negotiated out of this. They're going to get a lot more money. They're going to get a lot more power. It's because we have a president that's clueless, quite frankly, and probably, wasn't in a proper state of mind to make decisions to begin with. And I don't think it's gotten better over the last few months that we've been in Iran. So,
And
yeah, if
and
I was
as
in
you
the
say all the
service,
time,
if I was in the service, I'd be shaking my head going, "What the hell's going on?"
and as you say all the time, Congress needs to do its job. Okay, so this story caught my attention. Holy cow! I just I'll put it up here. So this is a new Associated Press exclusive report this week. It says that ICE plans to give officers gloves that are basically electric shock gloves. The plan includes spending up to $20 million on these. They've been used by some jails and police departments already. I don't have to tell you ICE has killed multiple people already this year, two in Minneapolis, within a couple weeks of each other. There have been reports also about a lack of proper training for these officers. So, what could go wrong here, Senator?
Yeah, well, the question is why? Why do they have these? I mean, they're going after the the people who are the most criminal. Not really. They're going after people who are here legally. Now they want to put electric shock gloves. Back in the day, and it's been a long time ago, and they probably still use them, but it's been a long time ago since I used them. We had electric prods that you use on cattle. If you were forcing them through a head gate or something, you hit them with these electric prods and give them a shock, and it bounced them through. I'm gonna tell you, by accident, I hit myself with one of those as a kid and, got a notion that these gloves probably are not a lot different. They'll put you to your knees,
Yeah.
and, the question becomes why? Why are you doing this? There will be more people die if you hit somebody that has a bad heart, who knows what can happen, and besides that, it's pretty damn inhumane. Maybe they're gonna use it on themselves for training purposes, but I doubt it.
Yeah, no, I doubt it, and this is I don't know. I just see a lot of things going wrong with this plan. All right, our last headline before we get to our guest, who's patiently waiting at a really terrible hour of the day for him. We
Oh,
have some news, and we want to say hi to our friend in Central Nebraska who's here with us. And hi. We have some news regarding our friend Katie Fang's lawsuit against the DOJ for not complying with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So there was a hearing in DC yesterday where a judge basically threatened to hold the DOJ lawyers in contempt if they don't follow the judge's orders. And the judge said, "Hey, I've done this before, folks." Judge Emmett Sullivan told DOJ lawyers that his orders were straightforward. And he asked literally, quote, "You want me to issue another order and say, I really mean it this time?" Oof, that's like a disappointed parent remark, Senator. That's like, I'm not mad. I'm just really disappointed in you.
well, they should be disappointed, and now things change, but things really don't change. Todd Blanche is the head of the DOJ now, after he was put through by a Republican Congress who can't control the president, run by the way, and even can't control how they vote to put the president, accountable. So Blanche is now the head of the DOJ. Things don't change. It's same old bullshit, same old stuff. This isn't the DOJ that protects the people. It's the DOJ that protects the president. And that's why they're holding back on any information on Epstein. And we're going to get to a conversation with Ron Wyden later today on Epstein, not later today, but later this week on Epstein. And the truth is that, um, the DOJ isn't doing their job, um, haven't for a while. But this one's particularly bad because even when a judge gives an order, they don't give a shit because they think they're above the law. Then you ought to be throwing some people in jail. That'll get their
Well, and they do have the power to hold people in contempt. And our friend Glenn Kirshner, who I'm going to see tomorrow here in DC, he brought that up when he was on our show. We do have someone in the chat saying that those gloves have an electricity 3 times what a wall plug carries. That he learned, or they learned on Defiance yesterday. I guess that's what I get for not being at my normal Thursday spot on Defiance with Miles and Xander. But that's pretty alarming.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been buzzed by a 110, it's a pretty good buzz. But if it's 3 times that, yeah, it's stupid. I'm just going to tell you that's what it is. It's stupid, and inhumane, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Um, it's
Well, and there
there's
was another.
a better way to do this, and if these people truly were criminals, then you could say, well, they might cause harm to the ICE officer. These are people who are here for the most part, very few exceptions. They're here legally. Just don't
There's a video.
like them because of the color of their skin or the way they talk.
Yeah, there's a video I should have brought up, if I was thinking clearly, but there was I think it was a Haitian migrant who's here on TPS, temporary protected status, and they put an ankle monitor around his ankle, and he just crumpled and fell to the floor and to the ground and just screaming and wailing. And you talk about inhumane. They
Well,
they didn't do anything wrong.
talk about taking civil liberties away. I mean, if it's him today, it's you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with this administration. They're dangerous, very dangerous.
Okay, so we are going to pivot right now because we have our guest who's been patiently waiting, and I'm excited to talk to him because on top of a lot of things we have to get to, including the horrific wildfires burning in the West, I need to ask him about Brandy Carlisle. So let's bring him to the stage. We have former Washington Governor Jay Inslee joining us, and it is like 6 a.m. there. I'm so sorry, Governor.
No. We lawyers get up before ranchers. We're ready for the day. You have to with Trump out there. You got to sue him before your first cup of coffee every morning. We do. We sue him before our first cup of coffee every Monday morning.
That's good. That's good. That's good, Governor. We appreciate you getting up at the best part of the day, and I think it's incredibly important that you beat these guys to the punch. I mean, it's important.
Well, it's true. We need to. The first thing my wife said to me when I woke up this morning was, "Is that smoke or clouds?" And it's interesting because that's now becoming a daily thing for us in the Western United States, as you know.
Yeah.
And 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 the change that's happened to our lives already, while this guy, is making sure oil company executives are lighting their profits with 300% increases. And of course, he's making money too because he owns millions of dollars at Chevron and Exxon, I think, too. But he's allowing us to have to breathe this stuff and making it worse every single day because he has totally eliminated, or to the extent he gets his hands on it, any ability to actually fight the basic cause of these fires, which is a changing climate.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I mean, if we can get into the frequency and the intensity of these fires, but first of all, we got to talk a little weather. It's cooled off here in Montana big time. I mean, we're going to get a high today of about 68, 70 degrees at maximum. We caught a little bit of rain. It's really not the time of year that we like rain if we're harvesting, but if you guys got rain or the forests are, that could be very helpful. Did you guys get any rain in Washington?
No, and it's a mixed blessing because frequently when you get a little precipitation, you also get lightning.
Yeah.
Right.
When it's so arid. I mean, that's the thing. It's just the aridity when you talk to the firefighters the aridity is a level that just is unprecedented. And as a consequence, the fire behavior, these are whole new beasts. I just remember when I was in fire in Leavenworth, Washington a few years ago, and I was talking to firefighters. In fact, one of them, I think they were from Montana. I was talking to this guy, and he just said, "Look, I've been fighting Western firefighters." He was an old gray-haired dude, had been around for a million years. And he just said, "This is an entirely new challenge we have with these fires because they're so intense. The aridity is so low that they're just explosive growth." I flew into one of these fires in Brewster or Winthrop a few years ago, and from the time I took off, from the time I landed, another fire started on the other side of the highway from one spark from a
Yeah.
guy's tire fell off his utility trailer and started a fire. So this is a whole new beast, and the fire season has increased maybe like 40%. Like, it's increased a month or two at least during the period when you get these fires too. So this is an entirely new challenge that we've got. And it's a damn shame that we got somebody in the White House that won't help and lift a finger. And in fact, has denied, this really gets my blood boiling. He has denied help when he has an obligation to help these people. We had a whole town burn down, Malden, Washington, just 3 years ago. 80% of the homes were destroyed. And he refused to allow FEMA to help, absolutely refused. And because he said he didn't like the governor of the state of Washington. And here's the thing that's really bugs me. Probably 65% of the people in that town voted for him. He's hurting his people. He's not hurting me. He thought he's hurting me. He's hurting his people who voted for him in this little town. That's how callously indifferent he is to humans. So it doesn't surprise me that he wants to shock people electrically either, because he shocks them every other way, every day.
So I want to take you back to the very first few days of his second term, because the first thing he did was take away any support for renewable energy, zero, and is pretty much taking all renewable energy in new builds off the board. Which, by the way, puts more energy into the marketplace. These people that say they want all of the above energy out there, they're not screaming, they're not hollering, because now we're all based on carbon-based fuel for everything. And and then and then when the fire season starts up, and by the way, a couple of years ago, we've had intense smoke in Montana for the last 3 weeks. I mean, a week ago it was so thick you couldn't see a mile, which I live up, you can see forever. And at any rate, what I was going to say is that a few years ago in the spring, we had smoke while I was seeding in April. It was
Right.
it was thick as hell.
Yeah.
So fire
Right.
season almost never end anymore. It just goes forever. And Trump's response is not to help the people, as you pointed out. That isn't part of the deal. His response is to sue somebody like Canada or put tariffs on Canada, when in fact we got a problem that's probably worse than Canada's. And when it comes to number one, climate change, number two, forest management. What's your views on all that?
Well, first off, talk about forest management just for a minute, because it is a legitimate question. And there are things we can do to do prescribed burns and targeted thinning around,
Right.
suburban in the urban wildland interface. Um, there's no question that there's some positive things you can do when you do that kind of treatment. But the absence of that is not the fundamental problem. The prescribed burns would not reduce the fire season like what you just talked about. So now you're getting fires in, April, May, June, that you used to get in August. And you could get your guys who run your golf courses to go out and manicure like a green throughout the national forest, and it wouldn't change that fact
That's right.
that you have this fundamental change in the nature of the forest, whether they're managed or not. So there are things we can do, and we have put in dramatically increased funding in our state to actually do more management, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of what we face in these fires. And that's the fundamental problem. And they also look at the scale. You look at the boreal forests in the Northern American continent, and you could, quintuple the prescribed burns you're doing there, and you wouldn't you wouldn't solve that problem in 1,000 years. You just look at the scale of the problem. So yes, there are things we can do, but it won't solve the most fundamental problem, which is the aridity and the heat that is causing this extreme fire behavior. The other thing that's interesting in this is that, you know, the number of fires actually may not have increased in the Western United States. It's the acreage burned and the severity that's of the interesting
Right.
aspect. And the severe fires, which are 8 times, like the real severe fires that have increased something like almost 8 times in some calculations. So, you know, prescribed burns and the like aren't going to necessarily solve these gigantic infernos that, you know, are doing thousands and thousands of acres. You can mow them, you can make them look like a putting green, but when the wind's blowing 40 miles an hour and the aridity's down below, I don't know, 4 or 5% or whatever number it is, you're going to lose whole towns.
Governor, I
And the
want to
other thing
ask.
is interesting. Here's another point that's really forgotten in my state. So in my state, the most horrific fires have not been forest fires. They have been in these mixed grass, brush, some pine tree environments. Like the town of Malden, you know, it's surrounded by acres of grass, and you don't manage grassland. You know, you don't manage sagebrush. Nobody's doing thinning sagebrush, right? So those kind of fires in those environments, you're not going to solve the problem with prescribed burns.
Yeah, it's such a complex problem, and it's going to take complex solutions. I want to play this video we played a few weeks ago. I mean, this shows the devastation of what happened in Spokane. I'll just remind people that there are more than 800 buildings gone. You can see kind of the before and after if you're watching here along with us of what happened to, you know, a suburban neighborhood in Spokane, Washington. Massive devastation here. But I want to ask you about this, Governor, because you really came under fire from some conservative, I'll say, news outlets for pointing to climate change during these fires because they say, well, you know, a suspected arsonist started this. It's not climate change. But I think as somebody who has studied wildfires and climate change impacts on those wildfires, I think they're missing the point here. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are to people who say, oh, how can you point to climate change? This was an arsonist.
Well, to start with, the one fire that picture alluded to is just one of, you know, like a dozen major fires we have in the state of Washington.
Right.
And the arsonist didn't get around and start a dozen fires. That hasn't been the major part of the problem. So, you know, I think when in the discussion about climate change, about managing our forests, about, you know, what we have to do to reduce the risk to our citizens, I think the worst part of this discussion is a virus, and it's the virus uh, of only one cause or one solution. And we get into that sometimes immediately. Well, my solution is a solution. Yours isn't the solution. The problem I've identified is the only problem, and your problem isn't it?
Mhm.
Well, the fact is, and this is a human, like we always get into these debate topics. There are multiple causes, and there are multiple
Right.
things we need to do, and nobody has the singular solution to them. And everybody should try to put their ideas into the stew to be able to solve these complex problems. Yes, arson is not a good thing. Neither are giant wildfires started by climate change, which are occurring in our state. Both are true. And I don't know why
Absolutely.
it's so complex. You got two halves of your brain, you should use both halves. And, you know, unfortunately, we got a cult. You alluded to these news outlets, they're more part of the cult who refuse to use both sides of their brain to solve these problems.
Well, and what I would say, oh, sorry, Senator. I'll just say really quickly, what I would say too is climate change doesn't start every single fire, but it sure dramatically affects the impacts of that fire. And so one spark can start a fire, yes, but if you have incredibly dry conditions and you haven't had rain, that one spark uh, can lead to a disaster. Sorry, go ahead, Senator.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. The incredibly dry conditions caused by climate change and the tender dry forests or grasslands that are out there caused by climate change. You have one idiot that starts a fire, an arsonist, and they're around, they're even in my hometown, but you have one arsonist that starts a fire, and look out, baby, she's gone. It's gone, and it's incredible. It's an incredibly sad situation that I don't care if you're a news outlet or if you're just using half your brain, that folks don't understand that there are multiple causes. The primary one is climate change, and there are multiple solutions. And as I said before, whether it's prescribed burns, whether it's thinning, whether it's dealing with climate change, which is a fundamental baseline problem here, and how you do that, by the way, which is good for consumers, is put more energy into the marketplace that puts out less CO2. I mean, that's it. And if you disagree with that, Governor, I want to hear the disagreement.
Well, here's the thing. This is such a twofer to reject Trump's blockade. He doesn't just blockade the Straits of Hormuz. He's blockading Americans from getting cheaper energy sources, which can give people cheaper electricity, cheaper transportation. He's blockading Americans' ability to get that. He's trying to stop people from getting the cheapest energy right now, which is wind, solar, and battery, to try to kill all of these projects. And that's costing Americans dearly. It's something like $2,000 for every family already in energy costs, a combination of the war and his refusal to give people access to clean energy. And and you know how pathetic it is. We shut down our last coal-fired plant because it was so expensive and dirty last year. He ordered it to stay open when nobody will even buy the electricity because it's so expensive. So he's really trying to shove not only dirty energy, but more expensive energy down our throats. So we're getting it, we're breathing it when we wake up in the morning, and we're paying for it when we pay our utility bills. And we ought to be madder than hell about it. And frankly, I am. And people this November are going to speak, and I'm pretty confident about that.
Well, I hope they do speak, because the truth is that costs I think you talked about of the $2,000 are direct costs. Those are the costs that when you go to the pump, you're paying more money for.
Right.
I'm here to tell you that in production agriculture, if you're buying diesel fuel right now,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
gasoline,
Yeah.
it's driving your costs through the roof. I mean, through the roof.
Yeah.
And that's going to result in higher food prices. So when you talk about the affordability issue, something that this president ran on and has done nothing about, but has made the food prices even higher because of this energy situation that he's created in a war of choice. It's just $2,000. I think it's going to dwarf that figure for families, quite frankly. Moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the $2,000 figure does bring into account some of those pass-through costs where diesel affects your food costs. So, but it is really, really significant. The other thing is, you can't expect the president to solve all the problems, and you can't expect him to be perfect. But you ought to expect them to not make matters worse dramatically by boneheaded decisions and absolute corruption. And the worst thing about this whole thing of driving up energy costs, it's based on corruption, not just misunderstanding of technology, although that's pervasive as well. It's based on corruption. He called the fossil fuel guys down to Mar-a-Lago. He said, if you contribute $1 billion, I'll do your bidding for you. And the way he's doing his bidding for them is that he's choking off their competitors' access to the market. The fossil fuel industry doesn't want to compete with cheaper energy. Coal doesn't want to compete with wind, solars, or batteries because they know they're cheaper. And so he's trying to cut off our ability to get access to those clean energy sources based on this corrupt deal. So it's not based just on ignorance or just on ideological, misdirection. It's based on corruption. And that makes it worse in my mind. So this year, it's all about cost, it's all about chaos, it's all about corruption, and it's all about climate denial. And those 4 C's are costing Americans a hell of a lot of money.
Ooh, the 4 Cs. I like that, Governor. That's good messaging there. So I want to talk about a little bit more about some of the policies because Senator Wyden, he's been visiting some fires in Oregon, and he's saying that crews in Oregon are telling him they're at half the resources they need. Meanwhile, we've had with DOGE cuts, we've had DOGE cuts of $10 million to funding to wildfire risk mitigation in Minnesota, where fires have ripped through more than 60,000 acres in the Boundary Waters. There's reporting that another $15 million in wildfire prevention funds were actually held up in your state in Eastern Washington over a dispute about a DEI policy. So, without that funding, without adequate crews, like how do we get this back on track and actually protect our communities, not just from the impacts, long term, but the immediate impacts of these fires ripping through? Because if they're short on crews and these fires keep starting, we just had a hotshot superintendent on a few weeks ago. He said they just have to start triaging the situation and figure out who's at the most risk.
Well, we go vote this November and get people in there to try to change the course of this disaster. I mean, that's what we do. And thank God we at least still got that ability, although that's going to be in some risk this November as well. But that's basically what we need to do. And it is as a common thing that, government isn't missed until all of a sudden there's a fire and the fire is heading your way and you'd like some help to put it out. But unfortunately, Trump has hollowed out our ability to fight the fires through DOGE and everything else. And when you take away the basic infrastructure, you weaken it, and you can't bring it up within 24 hours. When you reduce the number of firefighters and the infrastructure they have, you can't replace it in 24 hours once the fire starts. So this is yet another example of how his decision with Musk has hurt our ability in real time. And these firefighters are so courageous. We've lost several firefighters in the last 25 years in the state of Washington in horrific conditions. The courage they have is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
It's not just the military where we have heroes. These folks are real heroes in my book.
Yeah.
And so they ought to be given the resources, just as a matter of taking care of your people. They ought to be given the resources. But it's a real life example about how a pathetic ideology that you're just going to slash government really hurts real people in real time. And that's happened in my state as well.
And I would just add that we've got one of those heroes running for the Western District of Montana's House District, and the name is Sam Forstag, who's a working guy and a firefighter and honest as the day is long. I want to point out one hypocrisy here. You remember very well, Governor, when the president got elected in the second term, he brought in Elon Musk. They did their DOGE thing to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Great press thing. They were hitting God. Look at all this money we're saving. We see the results of that. But we also need to take a look at what's gone on in this presidency. He has racked up debt like no president before. He spends money like it's his own. He spends money like he could drive the country and have it declare bankruptcy, which we can't. And they continue to do it. They continue to do it right down the line with everything. All you got to do is look at it. And I don't know if we have any conservatives that are listening to this podcast, but man, if that doesn't piss you off as a conservative, nothing ever will piss you off. When you walk in and in one hand, the side of your mouth, you say, look, we're going to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And on the other side, they spend money like it's theirs. And it's crazy. It is crazy. We've had folks on this show that have been conservative that said Republicans aren't conservative anymore. They don't give a shit about the debt anymore. They just like to spend money on their people and on their projects. Any comment on any of that stuff, Governor? You served in Congress. You served as governor. You're part of the legislative branch. You're part of the executive branch. Talk to me, baby. Talk to me.
Well, listen, you want to talk about hypocrisy? I've lived through it. So I ran against guys when I ran against Republicans in my multiple House races. They always wanted a constitutional balanced budget amendment. Boy, they were for that constitutional balanced budget amendment on Monday. And on Tuesday, they'd go vote for giant deficit spending for their pet projects, including the beautiful ballroom that's going to be spray painted in gold paint if this guy ever gets it. Although probably it'll be sort of a disaster, just like the reflecting pool as well, on a no bid contract, by the way. And all this money that's being spent is like 70% of it are no bid contracts to Trump's buddies. So it's not only deficit spending, it's deficit of any morality of giving all this money, just handing it out to his pals and his cronies. And it's just horrendous what's going on. So it is shocking in its magnitude of the deficit spending that's going on. And if you've, been an independent or you've been a Republican for years and have legitimately cared about this issue, because it is a huge issue. This deficit is a massive problem. And I've, paid some political prices trying to do some things about that during my time. And you have too, because to solve it takes some pain, but it's got to get addressed.
Yep.
But right now we got folks that are just in this cult. And I don't think it's a party right now, and at least in Congress, it's a cult because they won't stand up to this. And if they ever believe, if the Republicans in Congress ever believed in a deficit, they sure abandoned that religion really quickly as soon as Trump came around, because that credit card is unbelievably large.
That's a fact. And there's no accountability. All this waste, fraud, and abuse. Look at the waste, fraud, and abuse that this administration has put out.
No, I mean you look at the stuff I just read the other day about ICE bought, or Border Patrol, one of them bought like 10 airplanes instead of leasing them, which is cheaper. They bought 10 airplanes from a guy who has connections to some Republican congressman or the like. You got this stuff in the ballroom to me, and the reflecting pool are just like a metaphor sent by the divine to understand this administration.
It really is such a good metaphor.
Corrupt, incompetent, and blowing up the deficit. That's there's three mantras, unfortunately.
And slimy and algae filled.
Yeah, filled, that's for sure.
Swampy. Our friend Tony, our Aussie friend Tony, is reminding us that there was a 2019 Department of Defense report about climate change impacts on bases and military missions too. I mean, this is not just about wildfire, folks. But Governor, I want to ask you another thing really quickly. You run this accountability project at Climate Power now. And I know you guys have been kind of trying to push out the headlines here about oil and gas prices and the mixed messaging that we're getting from this administration over the prices right now. We talked about it a little bit, but for starters, I mean, the president has said he's not concerned about the prices. We know he's called affordability a hoax at some points. He's gone on to blame the oil and gas companies for seeing record profits. But he's also then praised those higher prices, saying like, hey, we're making a lot of money here. So I'm wondering if you can help us make sense of this, because 8 of the biggest oil companies raked in more than $90 billion in the 3 months as the Iran conflict was going on, and sent all of our energy prices just through the roof.
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes small statements have large ramifications where for a moment the veil is lifted and people really reveal who they are and how they think. And that happened during the beginning of the Iran war. And someone asked about, isn't this going to drive up gas and oil prices and diesel prices that farmers and ranchers care about particularly, and we all should care about because it gets into our food prices. So, and what was Trump's response? Just off the cuff, right? So it wasn't on the teleprompter. He said, and this is a pretty good paraphrase. He says, well, high gas and oil prices shouldn't bother us because we make a lot of money. Now, the we he was talking about wasn't you, me, and the ranchers of Montana. It was him and his oil company buddies and the stock that he owns, because he owns millions of dollars of stock in Chevron Oil or in Exxon, that have now, Chevron, I think they increased their profits like 300% in the second quarter this year. The total profits have gone up by, at least 25, 30%. And for the second time, prices at the pump have been over $4 in consecutive weeks now, a fairly rare event with no end in sight. So the we who likes high oil and gas prices are not you and me. It's him and his cronies. And there's no more. And this is when he comes back to the sort of corruption aspect of this thing. If you're a member of the League of Women Voters, you don't like corruption. The reform movement that started in the 1920s, with Teddy Roosevelt against the malefactors of great wealth and all the corruption that was going on. That was based on sort of a moral revulsion of people lining their pockets and just taking kickbacks and stuff. That was the old style of corruption. That's the kind of corruption that was morally offensive, but didn't maybe really hurt people terribly economically. This is a much worse kind of corruption because it's coming out of our pockets. We're paying for that corruption. It's not just a moral offense. It's, like I said, it's at $2,000 for every family in America who's paying more for gas and oil and food and utility bills as well, which are going up an average of 12 to 14%, while he's trying to stick coal down our throats. So this is a corruption that is costly to Americans, and that's the worst kind. In the afterlife, maybe he'll get punished for the old kind of corruption, but we're getting punished right now because of this nature, and it is enormous. I remember, Richard Nixon had to give a speech about how his wife wasn't really corrupt because someone gave her a coat. So somebody on the campaign trail gave her like a coat, and he had to give a speech defending that, saying it wasn't corruption.
One coat.
Boy, those are the good old days.
Yep. Yeah. Now they give them Air Force. I mean, Air Force.
Now you get an airport. You get an airplane. Of course, the airplane isn't equipped to actually defend the president, which we should have an airplane that does defend the president. But he wants to put gold or red on it or whatever it is. So,
From a foreign government.
To me, I believe in the frailty of humans, and we all make mistakes, and we cast votes, and maybe weren't perfect. But when you do it based on greed, venality, ego, and lining your own pockets for you and your buddies, that's a sin in my book, if there is such a thing.
Boy, no kidding. It's a sin. It's what people don't like about government. It's what this president ran on,
right?
Draining the swamp, and he's done nothing but add to that swamp.
Well, in the one I read an explanation of why people sometimes are not as judgmental about as they should be, is that somehow they think it's just been chronic, and therefore Trump is not an aberration. I can tell you, he's an aberration in anything I've dealt with.
Me too.
In 30 years of public life, I was 8 or 9 terms in Congress, three terms as governor. Dealt with a lot of people, but nobody except for people who've gone to jail ever touched what he has done. And the crypto deals he's now making these special deals with Saudi Arabia, which then turn around and give his family access to their giant equity funds. It's perverting not only our financial well-being, it's perverting our security well-being, because he's making deals about security that affect our security that are overlaid with his financial well-being. So he's making decisions about these security arrangements which are colored by his financial interest of his family, of the billions of dollars. So when he goes in to sit down with the Saudi sheikhs, he's not thinking about what's going to be the best thing for Americans to be safe from terrorism and war. He's thinking about his family and how much cut they can get in the next investment deal of the Saudi princes. And that is a sick situation. We saw it in the original run-up to the Ukraine war during his first impeachment. That was a minor league corruption where he tried to get, Ukraine to run against Joe Biden, essentially, and wouldn't give him Javelin missiles, which were absolutely fundamental in ended up stopping the Russian tanks, were those Javelin missiles that eventually we got to Ukraine because that corrupt deal was exposed and he was impeached. Thank God we got him those missiles. But he tried to hold them up. He wasn't going to give Ukraine Javelins. And if that had been the case, Putin might have been sitting in Kyiv right now.
Yep.
So this affects our security as well as our financial well-being.
Your point that you just made should be put on tape and played, because it is why this country will never be viewed in the same light again by other countries around the world. Because other countries see this and they go, what the hell's happened in the United States? They used to be a moral country, and now it's cut a deal, make some money for the president. Who gives a shit about our national defense? Who gives a shit about terrorism? Who gives a shit about China and what they're doing in the Pacific? It's unbelievable what's going on here. And you're right, there
Like,
is an election coming up, and people, no matter how much money you make, you all get one vote, and we'll see what happens in those elections because
I
the
have
cit
to bring this up.
go ahead, bring it up.
Okay, so you're talking about corruption, you're talking about the elections, and there is this new End Citizens United Education Fund polling. They've been doing this research for a couple months with YouGov. And so here's something. Midterm voters are calling corruption a serious problem. 92% say it's a serious problem, in fact. Here's the question for you two, because uh, Democrats and Republicans are trusted equally on actually doing something about it. What does that say in this moment when you're talking about everything you're talking about? You're talking about Qatari planes. You're talking about uh, the first impeachment and the pay to play stuff happening, but people are equal on which party they trust to clean up the corruption. What does that say about this moment?
I am not dissuaded by that poll. The Democrats are going to win a heck of a lot of races this year, in part because of this anger around corruption. And the reason I say this is that the percentage of people who do care about corruption has increased dramatically during the Trump administration, and it is because of one person, Donald Trump. That's the reason that people now are interested in corruption more than that they have. And when you get right down to it, who are you going to vote for in Congress? You're going to have Democrats who are saying we need to hold this guy accountable, and the Republican they're running against hasn't done it. He simply has not done it. Now they may answer they don't trust the parties any more than another party, but when it comes right down to election about two human beings, about who stood up to Donald Trump and who has not, that's going to be a clear choice. So I'm confident there's going to be a lot of voters who are going to make decisions and punch the D ticket this year who have not in the past because they want people to rein this monster, this sociopath, this narcissistic sociopath to rein him in. So I'm not dissuaded by those numbers at all. That's not surprising that people don't shower politicians with love and affection, right? You know, I mean, this is not a shock that people don't trust Congress ever to do anything, anytime, on a general basis. But when it comes down to you and me, and I tell you, I'm going to stand up to this guy, and you will not because you bent over and kissed the ring. We're going to win a lot of votes.
Not me, Governor, not me.
No, not you.
I'm
No,
kidding.
but maybe he's heard our conversations without you knowing it. No, the truth is that Jay Inslee, Governor, you're 100% correct. And I think if the candidates are good candidates out there, they will use this anti-corruption message to their benefit, and I think it'll help them a lot get elected. I think if you take a look at the Western District in Montana, one of the things that Forstag has done is talked about we're not going to do stock trading, we're not going to have a revolving door. All that kind of stuff makes a difference to people because they can see the bullshit. They can see it, and you're right. It's been Trump who's been the band leader on this, and they're tired of hearing the music coming out of this band.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
I think
speaking of oh, go ahead, Governor.
no, I was just with our most excellent gubernatorial candidate in Michigan yesterday or night before 2 days ago, who has said she's really a thoughtful voice on how to reduce energy costs in her state. And she said, I'm not going to take contributions from utility companies because I want to make sure people understand that I really am going to be serious about trying to rein in their utility costs. And that is, people have really responded to that. So on individual basis, I'm confident that Jocelyn Benson's going to win, and it's going to be in part on this issue.
We really need to get Jocelyn Benson on this show, Senator. That's on my list. We'll get that
She's
done.
she's
Maybe-
very impressive.
Maybe Jay Inslee has the phone number to get a hold.
I think I have the contact. It's just, it's been busy, but we'll get her on. So before you leave, we talked about the band, and I want to ask about something fun because I heard, Governor, that you were at Brandy Carlisle at the Gorge, and I came this close to writing you a text message and say, "I'm at the Gorge. Where are you? Let's meet up and listen to Brandy." I just wanted to talk to you about that because that was such an amazing, magical weekend for me. I loved it.
Well, it was a magical weekend where we had so much talent up on the stage. It was just incredible, beautiful night. I encourage everybody to go to the Gorge someday. It's just such a beautiful spot. And we have enjoyed knowing Brandy. I met her in 2012 when she had just
Yeah,
graduated from being a busker in downtown
right.
streets to having a record. And she just had The Story. That was her big
Yep.
breakout song, The Story. And I called her up and asked, and so she came and played a little fundraiser I had when I ran for governor, and there was about 50 people there, and she played. And so we have seen this meteoric rise in this talented, wonderful, wonderful, loving, compassionate, caring person, a wonderful mother, wife. She's just an amazing person. And sometimes nice people have good things happen to them. And she's one of them. And by the way, she did one thing I will tell you that's the greatest honor I've ever had. And that is that when she sang this song, she was going to sing The Story as the closing song for this little fundraiser we have. And the last line in the story is, I hope I'm going to butcher this line. It's something like, I remember you, or I am in love with you, or whatever. I can't remember the last line.
I was made for you.
I was made for you. I was made for you. So I asked her to change the last lyric of the song to "I was made for True," which is my wife Trudy's nickname, and it was our like 40th wedding anniversary. So she says, Congressman, I've been asked 100 times to change lyrics. I've never done it. I've never changed a lyric. I just don't do it. I go, okay, I just wonder. But she goes, and she looks over at Trudy and goes, "But your wife is so sweet. I'm going to do it this one time." And so she changed the lyric to "I was made for True." And so I have been a Brandy Carlisle fan for quite some time.
Oh, I love that story. Yeah, she's just an incredible human. I am a diehard super fan. I've seen her, I don't know, so many times, and every time is still just incredible and magical and
Yeah. Well,
inspiring. And
she sang at my third son's wedding at the governor's residence too. That was
oh my gosh, he's dropping all kinds of whoa, governor. Now I'm jealous. I think she also did a Bullock fundraiser too, or a part like as inauguration party or something.
Yeah, you got to top that one. I'll tell you, that's pretty good. So Governor Maritza has three things that she is absolutely enamored with, uh, and not no particular order: Brandy Carlisle, Disneyland, and Hawaii. It's the way it is. So
Who can blame me? Like, those are 3 pretty fantastic things in my book.
yeah, I
Oh,
know. I'm not.
when you want to go to any of those, give me a call because I'm up for all of them.
Alright, well, I've got your number, governor. I've got your number, so watch out because it's gonna happen now. And Brandy has this birthday weekend at the Gorge every year in June, and so, next year, I'm texting you, we're gonna hang out at the Gorge, okay?
It's a beautiful spot. Oh my God. You look out at the Columbia River and the purple, the purple
Ugh.
mountains majesty just fits that scene looking up the Columbia and over the Cascades. It's a magical place.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We want to say thank you to former Washington Governor Jay Inslee, who also leads the Accountability Project at Climate Power. Thank you for just coming on and chatting with us, Governor. It's always good to have time with you.
And former Congressman Jay Inslee,
Yeah,
who
former Congressman.
absolutely both were credited.
Well, you left out my number one accolade though was I had a 4 acres of alfalfa that I grew for 20 years in Selah, Washington too. So
That's right,
I've
farmer
lifted a
too.
few bales. Don't leave that out of my resume.
Absolutely, hard. Let's just put it this way: a working man that knows what it's like to pick up the we like that. Anyway,
You
thanks.
know, watch out, Governor, because Senator Tester probably needs some help over on the farm. So he's going to call you now that you've touted that part of your resume, and he's going to have you come pick up idiot cubes.
He's got the creds. I don't have any idiot cubes. Let me be clear. It's round bales for me. All right.
No, he's a round guy.
That's right. That's I've gone strong.
He's a round guy. I like that. I'm going to use that from now on.
Right.
Nice
All
talking
right.
to you.
Thank you, Governor. Have a good day. Have a
Go
good
get it.
weekend.
Don't forget to vote. I'll see you.
Don't forget to vote. Oh, he's a round guy. I like that.
Afraid that may end up haunting me for a while. Anyway,
It's gonna stick. You should have stuck with idiot cubes.
I should have.
Okay, so we have a busy. Let me just go over this weekend. We are going to record an interview with Senator Wyden later today, and we will get that out. I haven't talked to you yet about that, if we're going to do it tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday. Saturday, I'm in Washington, D.C. because I am going to an event hosted by our friend Glenn Kirshner. And a lot of our friends of the show will be there. I'm so excited. I'm going to see Ellie Leonard there. I'm going to see Katie Fang. I'm going to see all kinds of people. So that'll be great. So I'll try to do an update from that event with some friends, from some friendly faces. And then on Monday, you're going to kill me. I've just filled your calendar and it's harvest. On Monday, we have the Sharon McMahon, America's government teacher again. We're going to be live with her. So if you have any good questions for Sharon, man, I've been loving her posts lately.
Well, a couple things I will say. We're going to be talking to Senator Wyden about a study that he's done. I think it's 3-4 year study he did on the Epstein files. 4 years on the Epstein files. It'll be good to get his take on what that study says in regards to Epstein and what has transpired there. And then it's always good to have America's government teacher on because she happens to be from Minnesota, and anybody from Minnesota is, gets on the show anytime they want because Maritza believes that's the way it should be. But she's great, and she'll be a lot of fun, and her perspective is always something that we appreciate.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about your hat already. For folks who didn't catch it at the beginning, this hat is too small. Where did you get it? It's a New York Giants hat that's too small. Where did you get?
I've got to tell you, I think it came from my grandson. He dropped a bag of hats off down here. Now his head's bigger than mine, boy. But I put this hat on, and it's a fitted hat. Unfortunately, it's fitted for like a size 4 head, and it doesn't fit very well. But since it's the beginning of football season last night, I'm saying the
Was it last night? I missed that.
season games. I don't believe the Giants played, by the way, but it was a football hat, so I figured I'd wear it and in tribute to the upcoming football season that will be here in 3 or 4 weeks. So it'll be fun.
I just remembered that you wore a Green Bay hat to troll me last year.
Yeah, I'm
gonna have to get you a Vikings hat, maybe.
I'll do that again. I might do that again. Yeah.
I don't.
Well,
I was.
You give me a Vikings hat, I'll wear it. I like the Vikings. When I was growing up, my buddy Cybrook, he was a big Vikings fan when they won
Oh,
every other year and never won. So it was good.
yeah, I know. There's a joke, and I can't remember it. It's something about like, what do you call a Minnesota Viking with a Super Bowl ring?
A thief. Yeah.
Thief. Yeah, a thief. I didn't catch football. I was on a plane and I had the news on, but I was also listening to. I don't know if folks have. If you want to like talk to me about a book, I would love to talk to you about the book Yesteryear because I just finished it last night. Holy smokes. I cannot quit thinking about this book. It's going to haunt me. So if anybody out there has read or listened to Yesteryear, shoot me a message. I want to chat. I want to talk. Okay, that's all we have for you today. And we did the hat. We want to thank our guest, former Governor Jay Inslee. I'm former alfalfa farmer as well. And we want to thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. We want to thank all of you who join us in this community every time. I think that's all we have.
That's good enough. Appreciate you listening and viewing and I don't know, whatever else you do.
You gonna say it?
Tally ho.
Yeah. Okay. Tally ho. Bye, guys.
You got to talk about, don't you have to talk about Pearl Jam? Did you already do that? Did I miss that?
I said thank you to Pearl Jam.
Okay, well, that's good. Then we can, all right.
All right.
guys.
Thanks, Pearl Jam. Bye.